Today we are here to talk about another form of track day hacks, and very specifically how not to be a noob on your first track day. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, welcome back to the JK Moto Entertainment channel. Welcome back once again to Stable B, our favorite place. I know, this channel is supposed to be about track days and club racing and everything motorcycle, and we keep just sitting in here in front of a motorcycle, which you can't see because the camera's a little too high, with this cool motorcycle on a sign behind me. That way, the whole mirror thing again. I gotta stop doing that, trying to point behind me. It's that way. I know it's that way. Anyway, we'll get out there soon. The season is starting to warm up. Season's getting started. We'll be out there soon, and we'll bring you guys along with. But today we got to talk about what you need to do when you show up for your first track day, so you don't end up looking like a noob like so many other people out there. So stick around for the video. Before we get into it, please, down below, click the subscribe button, throw a like on the video, and if you have any questions throughout, or if anyone else has any comments or opinions, please throw those down in the comments also. I'd love to hear about them. Let's get into the video. All right, one, I gotta apologize. There's a fly in the garage, or in the stable, in Stable B with us today. So if you see the friend flying around, say welcome. We're gonna name him Bill for the day. If you don't see him, but you see me doing any of this wild stuff, that's because there's a fly out here. Actually, it looks like there's about 17 of them. I don't know. Anyone, and also if anyone has any suggestions for getting flies out of your stable or your garage or your shop or whatever you might call your motorcycle abode at home, please throw those down in the comments. Also, I could use them. But we're not here to talk about flies or fly prevention or anything like that. What we are here to talk about today, very specifically, is how to not be a noob at your first track day. Or maybe it's your third track day and you just, after watching this video, you're like, oh man, I do some of those things. Now, there's a noob stage, quid stage for everything in life, and sometimes, you just gotta go through it. And some people would say like, well, you gotta let them go through it, learn the hard way, you gotta experience it firsthand, and then you know why and everything else. But being that this channel is all around how to have a successful track day, I don't want you getting laughed at out there. I also don't want you doing noob things. Now, please also recognize that all of these things that I'm gonna talk about today are completely my opinion. And so if you don't agree with them, let me know. I want to hear about it down in the comments. If you do agree with them, great. I want to hear about that also. If you've got other things that you've seen people do that you're like, hey, this is also a noob move, sweet. Or if you have questions like, hey, I was planning on doing this. Is this going to be a noob move? Should I not do this? Throw that down in the comments. You can also always hit me up on Instagram at JK Moto Entertainment. Send me a DM over there. Love to have a conversation with you about it if you don't want to bring that up in such a public forum. But also, you should follow the Instagram page while you're over there. There he is. There's Bill. There's definitely at least two of them, Bill and Jack. And anyway, hey, maybe I'll Mr. Miyagi it and just, I doubt it. Oh, not on the lens, bro. All right, cool. Anyway, so we're gonna go over 5 things, and I like to limit this list to 5 because trying to do any more than 5 in a YouTube video with everyone's short attention spans these days is really hard. The video gets very long, and I've seen the amount of viewers I get on a podcast compared to the amount of viewers on a video. Just trying to be honest with you guys, it's not as many. So we're gonna keep this nice, short, sweet, and to the point. 5 things. The first thing that I'm gonna say, holy cow, that is like kind of, some people might say I do this for a reason and it's to warm up the component that we're talking about. Some people might say, oh, I never thought about not doing that, but I'm gonna say that wearing your leathers to the riders meeting is a noob move. Leathers are not comfortable. They're not really supposed to be comfortable. They should be like relatively comfortable while you're on the bike. They're not comfortable to walk around in. So for me personally, I'd spend as little time in my leathers as possible, specifically in the morning when I'm trying to warm up my body and stay loose and do all this stuff like walk around, get to the riders meeting, get to tech, get to registration, get back to the camper or the campsite or the pit, whatever, get some breakfast, whatever else might be going on. I don't want to do that in my leathers. So I always kind of chuckle a little bit inside. I'm also kind of curious why people do this, but I chuckle a little bit inside when I see someone show up to the riders meeting in full leathers. They got their helmet with them. They think that they're going to leave that riders meeting and they're headed straight for the track. If you're not in A group, and even if you are, you have plenty of time between your riders meeting and the track going hot. Flash forward, most track days I've been to, riders meeting, 8 o'clock. Track day going hot, 9 o'clock. That's an hour. Most track day org riders meetings don't take an hour. Now, I have had some that start at 8:15 and they go for 30 to 35, 40 minutes sometimes because I got to go over everything. And you're like, okay, hey, it's getting a little close to it. Those are like the only times that I would personally say, hey, maybe you should wear your leathers to the riders meeting. But realistically, in all honesty, you don't need to wear your leathers to a riders meeting. So keep them in your pit, whatever you need to do. Now, the caveat to that is I think that some people think they need to warm up their leathers. They want to get them all nice and kind of stretched out and warmed up and whatever. I don't really foresee how that is super important. And if you're gonna do that, get out of the riders meeting, head back, put your leathers on, and then do some sort of stretch routine next to your bike or on the bike with your leathers on and get them warmed up that way. But I just want to kind of put it out there. It's a little bit of a noob move. You show up, you're super excited. I got it. I get it. I understand completely. I've questioned it on my first track day. I'm like, am I supposed to wear my leathers? Do I need to wear my leathers? When do I put these leathers on? And I always got to, like, I'm a very, got to be early for everything. And so I ended up always putting my stuff on super early. I always get my bike ready super early. And you find yourself kind of just like in pit lane for 15 minutes sitting there waiting for the track to go hot so you can actually go out. So keep your leathers in the trailer or wherever you might keep them. Wait, do the riders meeting. You'll be much more comfortable standing around in normal clothes than you will in leathers. Get back from that, put the leathers on, get them all warmed up, and head out to the track. All right, the next thing we're gonna talk about is warming your bike up in the morning. Now, there are race bikes out there and maybe some club race bikes that have some sweet settings on them where you turn them on and you kick it into warm-up mode and it does the awesome little wom 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 wom, warms it up, gets it through a full heat cycle, and gets it all ready to go. That is important when first thing in the morning, when it's still cold outside, you're gonna take your bike and the first thing you're gonna do with that bike, because you teched it last night, is get on the racetrack and go as fast as you can possibly go. Very important to have your bike warmed up, ready to do that beforehand. What you don't need to do is wake up at 6 a.m. for tech at 7 and a riders meeting at 8:15 and the track being hot at 9 and start your bike at 6:30 and run it for 20 minutes and do some sort of fake kind of revving action of that and get it warmed up that way and think that you need it warm when by the time you get out of that riders meeting and back to the track, it's not even gonna be warm anyway. So, is it important to warm up an engine? Yes. Can you get most of that warm up done by riding to the rider or riding to tech and then riding out to the track? And then realistically, your first lap of the morning is probably not going to be the fastest thing in the world anyway, because you're trying to get your tires warm and you're trying to warm up and it's just a track day and you're not racing. You're probably on DOT, so you got to get those tires warmed up. The track's not warm yet. Did I mention all that? I don't know. What you don't need to do is sit out there and act like you have some sort of warming device on your bike and rev your bike for 10 minutes to get it warmed up. It will warm itself up just fine. You'll be okay. This is one that I'm kind of, I was hesitant to put out because I'm like, well, someone's going to come in and say, it's very important that you warm up your bike and this is why this exists and everything else. If you are racing, absolutely understand it. Once again, you're going to head out. First thing you're going to do is ride that bike as fast as you possibly can because you're setting a qualifying lap or you're doing practice or you only have so many sessions before you're ready for your race, whatever it might be. I understand it. You didn't go to registration that morning. You didn't necessarily go to tech that morning. You went to a racers meeting and then you got on track to race. It's a race day. That is very, very different than a track day. The last thing you need to do on a track day is show up for your very first session out and try and go as fast as you can possibly go. People will tell you all the time, they'll say the riders meeting, other riders will say it, coaches will say it, everyone will say it. The last session of the day and the first session of the day are not where you're gonna get your best lap times. Save it for the middle of the day when you're warmed up, the bike's warmed up, and you're not ready to go home. That's where you get your fast lap times. So take it from me, a guy that's done this a good bit. I've watched my temperatures, I've done all of that. By the time you get out to the track and you actually get on the track, your bike will be warmed up enough. And you shouldn't be going fast enough that you need it fully warmed up and through a full heat cycle. Now, starting it in the morning because maybe you have dead battery issues or you want to make sure everything's actually good to go, or maybe this bike hasn't ran in a couple weeks or something like that. I understand it completely. Realistically, you get back from tech or you get back from your riders meeting, starting it a couple minutes before you head out, let it kind of start to warm up as you're going out and getting ready. That's great, all about it. I'm just saying that it's 6:30 in the morning, and don't get me wrong, I love the sound of motorcycles and I do not mind waking up to it in the morning. I love when I'm out at an event and there are racers there and I do hear that sweet little wom 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 with the bike warming up in the morning. I love that. I love waking up to it. So I'm not trying to tell you that like, hey, peace and quiet, I'm not some old man that's all mad about the bikes being loud. It's a racetrack, they're race bikes, I'm all about it. But you kind of look like a noob if you're sitting there in your first track day ever trying to get your bike all warmed up by hand when those are actually usually, that revving is usually ran by a device. So don't worry too much about warming your bike up first thing in the morning. Get it over to tech, get it inspected, bring it back, go to your riders meeting, come back. If you feel like you really need to warm it up, start it a couple minutes before you head out. It'll get warmed up, and then as you ride out there and as you do the first session of the day, it'll be plenty warm. Don't worry too much about warming it up first thing in the morning. All right, next two topics we got to talk about. These ones go right along with tech, and no one really has to know besides you, but these will be things that'll help you avoid a little bit of maybe embarrassment, mostly with the tech guys, but also maybe someone else in line or someone else in your pits or something like that. And they're also just kind of good practice. So two things we got to talk about. One is tires, and two is your chains. Now I have a video on the channel about tire pressures for the track versus the street. In there, I gave out a suggestion that was 30-30. A couple of people didn't like that suggestion. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but one, check out that video. I got it linked up here. Two, what you shouldn't do is show up with street tire pressures for your first track day, especially not to tech. That is something that you can talk to people about beforehand. There are plenty of forums, information on the websites of the tire brand, the tire vendor at the track, your buddies that have done track days before, forums, Facebook forums, Reddit forums. There's a ton of research. You can literally just Google it too. Anyway, ton of stuff out there on what you should set your tire pressures for on the track. You want them a little bit lower because you're gonna push those a lot higher. You're gonna have higher pressures once you're out there running. You want your pressures a little lower. If you show up with street recommended, and specifically not just street tire pressures, but specifically your manufacturer's recommended tire pressures, which are usually somewhere in the ballpark of like mid to high 40s, which is absolutely insane. You shouldn't even really run that on the road. Most people don't. But especially on the track, you don't want to show up with those high tire pressures that your manufacturer recommends. I think I looked at, yeah, right here. So right here on my Gixxer, I'm literally reading it. Front, 310 pounds, 120, 70, 17, blah, 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 3.6 pounds, cold. Rear, 4.2 pounds, cold. Once you start getting into track pressures, you'll also find that generally your rear tire is actually lower pressure than the front because you're going to be spending a lot of time. Anyway, there's a whole science into it, and I'm not an expert by any means on tire pressure, so I don't want to go into it too much. But don't show up to your first track day and specifically to tech with street tire pressures. If you do, it's not a huge deal. It's not like a crazy noob move. You know, you're not like super squidding out there necessarily. They see it all the time. They'll tell you, hey, I would recommend lowering that. Go talk to our tire guy. He'll hook you up with some good pressures, or they might even tell you like, hey, go get some sweet super sticky tires, and those are awesome. But anyway, don't show up with your manufacturer's recommended tire pressures to tech. Now, the second part of that is your chain. So chain tightness, and I wish I had you guys down here next to me, but if you've been on this channel, we've talked about chain tightness quite a bit, especially on the podcast. You show up to tech and I hate it, but it often feels like the person at tech is like, gotta find something. And I'm not trying to dime anyone out that runs tech at a track day. Your job is very important. I'm also a big believer in the fact that if you show up to a motorcycle track day, you should personally be checking your bike and really teching it yourself. You shouldn't want to be finding like you shouldn't rely on the tech guy to figure everything out. They're kind of like the last defense before you head out on track and cause a safety issue. But if you show up with a street chain tautness, there's a good chance you get a hit on that at tech. Now, specifically, if a lot of you guys do your own maintenance, or you've taken your wheel off for cleaning or chain maintenance, or maybe you've changed the chain out or something like that, there's that whole kind of caveat of like you want 1 inch to 1.5 inches of wiggle room up and down. Some people measure that with a ruler. Some people are just like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Some people are like, I don't know, I don't want it too loose because I don't want it to fall off, which is absolutely a concern. I understand it. But when you get to the track, people are going to tell you, hey, you want a more loose chain, caveat, not so loose that it falls off, but a more loose chain because you're much more likely to use the full compression of your suspension on the track. And if your chain is too tight, it's going to limit your suspension ability. It's not going to give the bike the ability to do its full compression, full rebound, full, what's the other one? Compression, rebound, and can you guys tell I'm not a mechanic and not a suspension expert? Something? I don't know, whatever, don't worry about it. But there's 3 settings of the suspension. Anyway, if you don't have full travel of your suspension, your bike's gonna do some kind of wild things. The geometry is gonna be all thrown off. It's gonna come down expecting to keep going because the spring's not gonna like lose its tautness. It's gonna hit a pretty stiff, hey, your chain just stopped you. And that stiffness is gonna throw the bike off and it's gonna go crazy. Now, most people on their first track day, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but most people on their first track day aren't really gonna run into that issue too much of actually using the full suspension, but there's a possibility. And one of the most likely hits you get at tech is that your chain is too tight or too loose. Don't show up like that either. Really, just check on your chain altogether. If you don't do chain maintenance, or your chain is like years old, or your teeth are super ground down, it's like the worst thing you could do is show up to tech for your first track day thinking your bike's in super good shape, ready to go, and they're like, hey, that chain is not usable, and you don't have a new chain, and you don't have anyone there to get you a new chain, and you don't maybe you don't have the money for it. You should figure all that stuff out beforehand. So if you haven't looked at your chain in a minute, and you know you're doing track days this year, go take a look at your chain, sprockets, make sure all the teeth are looking nice, the chain's looking pretty good, give it a lube, a clean, make sure all of that is satisfactory before you head out there. But when you show up, you don't want your chain super tight. So don't show up with a super tight or a super loose chain. And I say street tautness. Some of you might ride at the right tautness anyway, but yeah, it's This is like an easy hit for the tech guys. And once again, I'm not talking crap on the tech guys. We love our tech guys. We need you guys out there. But when you're on the other side, it's kind of a little bit of a battle in the morning with the tech guys. Like, am I going to get through tech? I should. I think my bike's ready to go. But what are they going to find? They're like, oh, chain tautness. Gotcha. Got to go adjust that. Then you got to come back, tell me that you adjusted it, and then I'm going to do the same little thing. It's going to look exactly the same. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, man. So whatever. Don't worry about it. Just make sure your chain is at an actual decent tautness. Not too loose, not too tight. Able to use your full suspension out on the track. All right. Our third and final... Third. Why did I say third? We've covered 4 things so far. Fifth. The fifth and final thing that I'm going to say, the fifth and final tip to not be a noob out on the track. And this one's just kind of like good practice in general, really in anything in life, but motorcycle track days are not an easy thing to do. Riding a motorcycle fast and smart and safe and smooth on a racetrack is not an easy thing to do. A lot of people spend a lot of time working on it. Some of those people start racing and then they spend even more time working on it and they get to where they're actually, pretty decent at it. They can go win races, be it at the club level, or maybe they get good enough that they move up to a Moto America level or some sort of national level, international level, or I don't know, maybe they're Marc Marquez and they race MotoGP. I am not that. I'm also not the fastest or the smoothest or the safest. I try and be pretty safe, but anyway, I have not mastered this craft yet. And I think one of the biggest things that sets you apart as a noob, I could have stopped using that word, as someone that's definitely doing their first track days, when you come out and you talk a giant game because of how much experience you have or how fast you are on the road. Now, motorcycle experience is great, and when you go do your first track day, having more experience than none can be very helpful. What it can also be is actually unhelpful because of all the bad habits you get out on the road compared to the racetrack. There's a lot of stuff that gets taught for road riding, a lot of stuff that gets practiced for road riding, that when you get on the racetrack, that is like some of the last stuff you want to be doing. So showing up to your first track day and someone trying to offer you some advice, or a coach saying, hey, come do a lead follow with me, I want to show you some stuff or whatever, and you saying, oh, that's fine, dude, I'm a canyon carver, I'm wicked fast, you just catch me in canyon, a little Cottonwood Canyon next weekend, I'll show you what's up. It's just kind of, I'm just still getting used to it. Talking a giant game of how fast you are out on the street is like the quickest way to set you apart is, okay, this guy's definitely new to this, and also, okay, cool, I wanted to help this guy out, and I don't care anymore. So yeah, good luck, have fun, you're probably not gonna make it very far. Now, I can't speak for everyone. Maybe there's some coaches out there that don't get that bad attitude too fast, but I can tell you that most people that are club racing or have been doing track days forever or have done kind of both, where they went track day to club racing to back to track day, they've been doing this for a long time. Their suggestions are usually pretty warranted. If you get a coach that says, hey, come do some lead follows with me, you might be faster than him, maybe. Probably not. Maybe you should go follow him and find out. Usually they're just trying to help, and they've seen a thing or two out there. There's some insurance company, I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to get fired or fined, but they know a thing or two, so you should probably listen to them. And the last thing you want to do is throw it back in their face and talk about how fast you are out on the street, because a lot of these guys gave up on riding on the street because it was boring and slow and in their head maybe dumb. I'm not trying to say that street riding is dumb. On this channel, I believe that, is this Bill or Jack? This stupid fly. Anyway, on this channel, I 100% believe street riding has to happen. I'm all about it. It's great to go out there, cruise, relax, have fun. What I don't condone necessarily is illegal acts on the street, but more importantly, when you show up to your first track day, you want to have an open mind. Do not think you're the fastest guy out there. I promise you, you're not. If you do think you're the fastest guy out there, skip the track days altogether, go straight to an NRC and see if you can even pass and get your race license. And then show up on the grid next weekend with amateur racers, because you won't be able to race expert, and see if you can keep up. I can't, so there's a good chance you probably can't either. But anyway, I get it, we all get it, you've got a ton of experience. Keep your experience in your head, be out there, be open-minded. You'll learn a lot more that way, and you'll learn a lot faster. And you'll make a lot more friends that way than trying to talk a huge game on how fast you are out on the street and how, you do wheelies down the freeway all the time and you're super awesome and you can weave through traffic, so clearly you can weave through traffic out on the racetrack. Not worth it. Just show up, open-minded, humble, be ready to learn a lot. You actually get a lot faster, a lot quicker, and then you can be the guy telling all your other street friends, how to do it out on the track. So that is it. That's all I got. Those are the 5 tips. Hopefully you guys enjoyed those. Once again, if you got something else that you've seen at a track day that's like a total kind of noob move, your first track day, wish I hadn't done this or wish I had done this a little differently or whatever, please throw those down in the comments. Also, if you have anything to add to the things that I said, please throw those down in the comments also. And if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know, either comment section or hit me up, like I said earlier, on Instagram at JKMoto Entertainment. I'll answer anything and all questions there. Send me a direct message. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.